Here are numbers that will shock you. In the 1990s, Weetabix owned 20% of the UK cereal market. Sales hit £360 million. Britain's second biggest cereal maker, selling to 80 countries. Today, Weetabix still leads. But here's where American greed comes in. Since Post Holdings bought it for £1.4 billion in 2017, the market crashed 9.9% every year. Weetabix sales dropped to just £175.9 million from £360 million under American ownership. Less than half its peak. Volumes down 7.1% last quarter alone. Greed ruined profits. The twisted part? Post Holdings calls this smart business and celebrates better profits while British breakfast dies. They're not saving Weetabix, they're harvesting what's left while the cereal market collapses around them. Next 15 minutes, I'll show you how American companies turned Britain's breakfast into a cash machine. The numbers don't lie, the corporate reports do. You lived through this story, but you probably didn't see it happening. This isn't just about breakfast or about cereal suddenly disappearing. It's about what happens when your childhood meets American profit margins. We're going from a family-owned British icon to a global money grab. Burton Latimer factory to Shanghai offices to St. Louis boardrooms. Why? Because Weetabix's story is modern Britain's story, sold off bit by bit while you weren't watching. But here's what scares me. What happened to Weetabix is happening everywhere. Your childhood brands, your local shops, your cultural memories. Foreign companies are buying them up. They see your nostalgia as their payday. What's at stake? The soul of British culture. Get this wrong, and everything that made Britain British gets sold to whoever pays most. Want the real story? How Weetabix went from British breakfast to American corporate ambition. And why those breakfast wheat bricks should worry every one of you. The golden days. Picture 1985. You stumble downstairs in school uniform. Mum's got milk ready. 2 Weetabix bricks in a bowl, radio playing. Then that jingle. Have you had your Weetabix? This wasn't breakfast. This was Britain in a bowl. Why did Weetabix matter? By 1980, it owned 20% of UK cereal sales. 1 in 5 breakfast bowls contained those wheat bricks, fighting Kellogg's for number 1, and winning. Those 1980s ads? The tough cartoon Weetabix characters? They didn't just sell cereal, they sold British identity. Have you had your Weetabix? Meant resilience, getting on with it, good old British grit. How big was this success? Royal warrant. By appointment to the Queen Mother. When royalty backs your breakfast, you've made it. Sales exploded from £55 million to £360 million through the 80s and 90s. Britain's second largest cereal maker. But wait, stop. While you watched those brilliant ads and ate your morning bricks, something else was happening. American cereal giants weren't just watching Weetabix succeed. They were studying it, learning it, planning for it. Here's what those ads never told you. Even during Weetabix's golden years, the seeds of failure were growing. While British families loyally ate their Weetabix, American companies studied every weakness in the UK market. What looked like British breakfast success was actually the calm before a storm. A corporate storm that would last 3 decades. The attack begins. Picture the George family boardroom, late 1990s. Export numbers any British company would want. They were getting awards for their ads. Everything looked perfect. But underneath, war was coming. The George family was about to fight on 3 fronts at once. Why was Weetabix under attack? American giants like Kellogg's weren't just competing. They were stealing market share bit by bit, pressure on profits. Then cereal partners showed up. That's Nestlé and General Mills working together. More sugary cereals targeting British kids. This wasn't random competition. This was planned attacks on British breakfast. What changed in your home? British breakfast habits evolved faster than Weetabix could adapt. Family breakfast became grab-and-go breakfast. Cereal bars, yogurts. Quick options stole market share while Weetabix stayed traditional. Your mum still wanted proper breakfast. Your life said something different. But here's the killer blow. Supermarket brands started playing dirty. Wheat biscuits that looked exactly like Weetabix cost much less. You're already squeezed for money. Why pay extra for the real deal when the knockoff looked the same? Here's your wake-up call. Everyone thought Weetabix was winning because sales grew and ads were everywhere. But underneath, they were fighting 3 wars. Against American giants with more money, against changing British habits, against supermarket copies. The George family wasn't running a cereal company anymore. They were defending British breakfast from globalization. And they were losing. Imagine holding a castle while enemies attack from 3 sides. You might win some battles, but you're surrounded. That was Weetabix by 2000, still successful on paper, strategically trapped by forces bigger than them. The numbers tell the story. Kellogg's kept stealing market share through the 80s, chipping off 2% of Weetabix's share. Weetabix struggled with new products. Only one Alpen variant, their muesli brand from 1971, really succeeded as a new product through the mid-90s. Supermarket cereals undercut branded prices. Customer loyalty cracked month by month. 2004 arrived. The George family faced the choice no family business wants: sell to survive or fight a war they couldn't win. After 72 years of family ownership, they sold. The money vultures. This is where it gets dark, really dark. In 2004, everything changed. After 7 decades, Weetabix was sold to Lion Capital, a private equity firm, for £642 million in cash, £1.1 billion including debt. Don't know what private equity does? It's simple. They are financial vultures. They buy companies, squeeze out every penny, then sell what's left. But why does this matter? This wasn't just new owners. This was a philosophy change. Decisions now driven by money, not family legacy. The focus shifted from how do we build this for the next century to how do we get maximum cash for the next sale. Then came 2012. Britain's breakfast goes to China. Headlines everywhere. Bright Food took 60% of Weetabix for £1.2 billion. Suddenly, decisions about your British cereal were made in Shanghai offices. China became Weetabix's 3rd biggest market. Not because Chinese people loved wheat bricks, because Bright Food used British heritage to sell breakfast in Asia. Something fundamental changed here. Britishness wasn't Weetabix's identity anymore. It was its sales pitch. Burton Latimer factory kept running. The packaging looked the same, the recipe stayed unchanged, but the soul shifted from cultural truth to marketing strategy. You know those tourist ads selling authentic British experience? That's exactly what Weetabix became under Chinese ownership. Carefully packaged Britishness designed to sell maximum nostalgia. Think about it. Someone buys your childhood home, keeps everything looking identical from outside, but guts the interior and turns it into a tourist attraction. Looks like your house, same address, but the family that made it home? Long gone. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Chinese ownership didn't destroy Weetabix. It revealed how empty the British heritage already was. By 2012, Weetabix's Britishness was just marketing. The Chinese simply turned nostalgia into a business and sold it back to you more efficiently. But China was just practice. The real betrayal was coming. American greed wins. In 2017, your breakfast officially became American property. Post Holdings, St. Louis Food Company, bought Weetabix for £1.4 billion. Press releases full of nice words about preserving heritage and investing in growth. Burton and Latimer factory would keep operating. Jobs were safe. The recipe wouldn't change. All technically true. All completely misleading. Why is Post Holdings worse? Surface level, nothing changed. Same factory, recipe, yellow box. But look at Post's investor calls. The truth comes out. Weetabix isn't a national treasure to them. It's a business unit that must hit profit targets alongside pet food and protein shakes. In their reports, Weetabix sits between refrigerated retail and food service like any other moneymaker. What does smart business really mean? Post's recent reports tell a scary story. When sales drop, they don't ask what it means for British breakfast culture. They do strategic exits from low-performing products and simplify the business. Translation: cut whatever doesn't make maximum profit. Heritage and community don't matter. How has everything changed? Today's Weetabix makes money not from classic bricks, but from protein shakes and health products. The company admits cereal category declines and falling sales. What they don't say, they're actively managing Weetabix's decline while extracting maximum cash from the brand name. Here's your biggest wake-up call yet. Post Holdings isn't trying to save Weetabix. They're not trying to bring back the golden years. They're quietly harvesting what's left while you sleep through the asset stripping. Every time sales fall, they celebrate better margins. Every time they cut costs, they call it operational efficiency. This isn't serial management. This is sophisticated wealth extraction disguised as smart business. The numbers don't lie. Weetabix volumes down 7.1% in recent months. Growth comes from currency changes, not real demand. They're doing strategic exits from traditional products while pretending everything's fine. Imagine someone bought your local pub, kept same name and look, but slowly replaced beer with protein shakes, fired the bartender who knew everyone's name, turned the back room into corporate meeting space. Technically still your pub. But is it really? So what does this mean for you? Are you actually worse off? Or is this just nostalgic complaining? What's left in the box? Reality check time. Let's compare then and now, brutally honest. 1980s to 2000s. Independent British company. 20% UK market share. Growing category. Breakfast cereal central to British mornings. George family made decisions based on what was good for British consumers and workers. Profits stayed in Britain. Innovation focused on what British families wanted. Today, division of US company. Struggling market. Sales declining everywhere, so they focus on protein products over traditional cereal. Decisions made in St. Louis offices by people who've probably never eaten Weetabix for breakfast. Why does this decline feel unstoppable? UK cereal market has been declining 9.9% per year since 2020. Weetabix still leads, but it's leading a sinking ship. Young consumers aged 16 to 34 think traditional cereals are old-fashioned. They want grab-and-go alternatives or skip breakfast entirely. The cultural foundation that made Weetabix successful has crumbled. What's the harsh reality? Weetabix remains profitable and stable. Post Holdings isn't running it into the ground. They're not stupid. But it's not a dynamic, independent British champion anymore. It's a stable, cash-generating asset being optimised for extraction, not growth. Think about it like this. Beautiful old oak tree. From outside, looks healthy. Bark intact, branches have leaves, birds nest in it. But inside, the heartwood has rotted away. Tree's still standing, still functional, but it's hollow. One strong wind, and the whole thing comes down. Here's your final realisation. The most twisted part isn't that Weetabix failed, it's that it succeeded just enough to hide its own hollowing out. Brand stronger than ever in research studies. Factory still employs hundreds. Product still fills supermarket shelves. But the power, profits and decisions have quietly moved 4,000 miles away. Modern Weetabix isn't a British success story. It's a case study in how to extract maximum value from a dying cultural institution while keeping up appearances. UK cereal market down 9.9% year over year. Supermarket brands gaining market share every quarter. Post Holdings focuses on margins over sales growth. British breakfast habits shifting away from traditional cereal. And through it all, Post Holdings keeps celebrating their efficiency improvements. Which brings us to the question you're asking. What does this all mean? The Weetabix story isn't about breakfast cereal. It's about what happens when heritage meets globalization. When family businesses meet private equity. When cultural institutions meet quarterly profit targets. It's modern Britain's story. Still looks the same on the surface, fundamentally changed underneath. Every time you pour milk over those familiar wheat bricks now, you're not just eating breakfast. You're consuming 3 decades of financial engineering. Taste is almost the same. Packaging barely changed. But the soul of what made Weetabix special has been quietly extracted and sold. Here's the simple truth. What happened to Weetabix is happening to every brand you grew up loving. Those numbers I showed you at the beginning. Weetabix dropping from £360 million to £175 million under American ownership. That's the playbook. Buy British heritage, extract maximum cash, keep up appearances. So here's what you do. Next time you're shopping, ask yourself, who really owns this brand? Where do the profits go? Are you supporting British businesses or just funding foreign shareholders? Start reading the small print. Start asking questions. Start caring about who controls the things that shaped your childhood. If you enjoyed this video, then hit like and subscribe right now, because I'm going to show you exactly which British brands have been sold off while you weren't paying attention. The list will shock you. Stop sleepwalking through the supermarket aisles. Your culture depends on it.